Hi, I'm Monty Betham, and tonight on Once a Warrior, we have 150-game legend Micheal Luck, who's affectionately known as Lucky. Lucky, thank you for your time. 7:30 a.m. there in Townsville. You've got a busy day ahead of you, man, so it's much appreciated.
Pleasure to be here, Monty. Great to see you.
Brother, you had an amazing career in your boots, especially down here at the Warriors. Now you're having somewhat of a great career, already climbing to real heights as the general manager of football at the Cowboys. What is the end game for Lucky?
Good question. Monty, I've always, it was never really a real choice to stay involved in footy. I was at uni the whole time I was in Auckland and had a good time at AUT in the city in there, and just the opportunity arose to go back to Townsville and become involved back at the Cowboys, and sort of now almost 10 years back here now, and I've been in a few various roles, mostly in the front office, but 18 months ago, there was a bit of a restructure, and I was asked, did I want to go and have a crack at, being part of the rebuild of our football program. So it's been a ride. So enjoyed it, and enjoying being part of what Toddy Payton and his coaching staff are trying to rebuild here at the moment.
Going back to the time when you wore the colours, mate. Let's have a look at this.
Here comes Luck. Straight through them, pouring down the field. Gets dumped on his back. Micheal Luck will score. Here's Luck. Turn him into a turnstile. Running into a brick wall. Come on, and the big defence keeps on coming. It's Micheal Luck. Luck with the dummy. Luck's through again. Chase is coming through. Micheal Luck has claimed the try. Chopped down Luck. Well, there's a solid shot from Micheal Luck. Great tackle, Micheal Luck. Oh, Micheal Luck, Champagne Rugby League from the Warriors.
Lucky, I thought you suit the colours, man. Do you agree? What do you feel when you look back at that?
It's a great time in my life. Once I was there for 7 seasons, and moved over October 2005 and came back to Australia in December 2012, and had some of the most special times of my life happened while I was a Warrior, and while I was in New Zealand. Got married, had my first child over there, made some friendships that will well outlast any time that I'm in rugby league, and those things are the things that more than success or anything that happens on the field, they're the things that you remember most. So I loved it. And if the body held up, I would have still been doing it. It's just it was such a great time, a great city to be in, great country to be a part of.
Mate, you came over in 2006. You were looking for more minutes. You weren't getting them at the Cowboys. First of all, I want to know what you did personally, because the evolution of Micheal Luck was one that people really enjoyed.
It'd be real. I wasn't a great player. I worked hard, and I had a fairly high pain tolerance. So I haven't had a position or a role that he needed me to fill, and I just made sure I did that every week as well as I could. And a lot of that is due to Ivan, his coaching staff that he had there. Tony Iro was there for a long time when I was there. Johnny Ackland, Craig Walker, who's a trainer, who's now back at the Roosters. Those guys were the core of our coaching staff, and the credit for me and me staying there as long as I did has to go to those guys, because, as I said, I've said here, if you do this job, I'll keep you in the jersey for as long as you can do it. And so, as I said, I knew I wasn't the most talented guy, so I did plenty of prep work. I used to watch a whole lot of tape about oppositions, and I used to know what was coming in the middle of the field at us, because that was my best chance to help us stop some great players. In that time, we had that great Melbourne Storm spine that we had a lot of success against, and I think that's because that group of middle forwards that we had, they used to watch a couple of hours of video every week before we play them. We'd know what was coming before it happened. So, respectfully, I didn't really care about what the people in the stands or the reporters or anyone on TV would say about me. The only people I cared about were the couple of blokes either side of me on the field and my coach. I had a saying that I used to write on my team sheet every week was earn respect from people who matter. And the only people that mattered to me were, if I was playing lock in the middle of the field, my two front rows, my hooker, my fullback, and my coach. And if anyone else had any, if I pleased those guys, then I'd done my job.
The coach, which is Ivan Cleary, and his development, what he's been able to do. Could you see it that early on? What was it about him that made this run of success in the finals? Pretty consistent.
Yeah, and I say this with the benefit of hindsight now. Like, I think Ivan is the coach that he is, and he's had the success that he has because he's one of the very few that understand his strengths and weaknesses really intimately. And I think Ivan knows, Ivan can be awkward at times. If you didn't know him, he can be hard to strike up a conversation with, but he knows that. So he knew that he had to get guys in around him, like those guys I mentioned, Johnny Ackland and Tony Ira and Craig Walker, and these guys that are real, personable individuals that they can be the life of the party, where Ivan can just be clinical and analytical and go and map a plan out and put into effect. So it's no surprise to me that he's gone and had the success that he has, because if you even look at the coach's box next to him now, he's got all these guys around him that offset they're not weaknesses, but they're just not his strengths. So I think he's been great at that. He's never been threatened by putting individuals beside him in a coach's box that potentially could do his job, which I think, it's a trap a lot of other head coaches can fall into. So, massive amount of respect for him. I owe him a debt of gratitude. He was the one that got me to the Warriors, and I guess restarted my career. And I'd talk to him now, once every month or so, just to bounce ideas off him. And I think my club and the Penrith Panthers at the moment are on very different levels of evolution and development. So, again, I don't think he sees a threat in sharing information with me, which is a really big. It's a strength of character that someone's willing to share what they know in order to make someone else better.
Okay, I want you to be a bit more specific now on some of those great times, the friendships, the people, because you know what, I think that's what this show is about. And you're thought of highly from this end of the ditch. And I know you can't name them all, but they're the ones that are at the front of your mind.
Well, I guess, we had a pretty good core group of players there for most of the time that I was over there. And, I've said this in any interview I do. So who's the standout player you've ever played with? And Simon Mannering is the first bloke that comes to mind. The other guys that were, I guess, a core part of what we did there for a long time, guys like Sammy Rapira and Lance O'Hire, Russell Packer. Like, I know Russ has been polarising since that period and run into his problems, but Russ is still a guy that, if he rang me tonight and said, Lucky, I need you, something's going wrong, I'll jump on the next plane and go and see him. And you don't forge those friendships or those bonds without some meaning behind them. And as I said, mate, I loved it. I was really, really lucky to be there in the time that we were there. Had a great experience. So did my wife.
301 game veteran, and that was of the possible 320 with Simon Mannering. What made you so special?
He did what he said he was going to do every day. The difference between his best and worst was minimal. He was consistent. He was consistent in every part of his life. And it just made him reliable. And some of the injuries and the illnesses that he played with. And I guess, I get to say this in the benefit of the privilege of the role that I sit in at the moment. There's things now that we'd have guys in hospital that Junior would just put a pair of boots on and go and play the game. I can't speak highly enough of the bloke as a competitor on the field, but also as a human being as well. Just such a selfless, thoughtful guy that everyone else was before him. And I think he's taken that into what he's done now as well. He's sort of shuffled off out of the limelight and gone back and looking after the kids and just happy to have a quiet life in Nelson.
You played 50 consecutive games for the Warriors. You played and you were very durable. I mean, how was that possible? Because I know there would have been a number of times when you were busted. What was your purpose and what did you use to keep staying up and performing? Because you were Mr. Consistency yourself.
Yeah, I don't know if I was as durable as Simon. I just think I had in my mind that if I ever gave my spot up, I wouldn't get it back. Because, as I said, I knew that I wasn't the most talented guy. I wasn't fast, didn't have great ball skills. So I knew that while I was doing the job that Ivan needed me to do, never give a sucker an even break. So don't give anyone else the opportunity to step into your shoes. There were some times where I probably shouldn't have played. It was never dangerous or anything like that. But I just I loved it, and I used to wear it as a badge of honour as well, knowing that you understand your levels of tolerance of pain and what your body can do, and I think you learn that over time. By the time I got to my mid-20s, I understood that body's an amazing thing. I remember I got a cut, split the webbing in my hand on one game, and we mustn't have cleaned it out properly before we sewed it up. Anyway, so that was a Saturday night. By Monday morning, it was, my hand was blown up. And Doc Mayhew came around. I was living in a place in Greylin at the time, so he sort of jumped off the motorway on his way over the stadium and looked at me and said, "Mate, you need antibiotics in that straight away." So the doc was coming around morning and night to run an IV line through me. And I think on about the Tuesday or Wednesday, I was as sick as I've ever been, and still to this day, I've never been that sick. And that day, I thought, and then so got over it Thursday, did captain's run Friday, and ended up playing on Saturday. And I thought after that, you must have to be sick to die, because I was pretty sick that week. But then, you go through something like that, and you play the next week, and that just, it gives you confidence, and that regardless of what you go through after that, if you can tolerate something like that, then if you've ever got a sore ankle or sore shoulder or whatever, if you can still run, you still put a jersey on, then you can play. Most of my role was a defensive focus, so that included, I guess, diving at tackling when you weren't in great position, and that often comes with a boot in the head or a knee to the cheek or whatever it might be. There's still the scars fade over time, but they're still there. And mate, funny as it sounds, I still, about a month ago, I had a pimple on my chin and I was squeezing at it, and there's a little black string came out of it. So I think that's an old stitch that hadn't dissolved, that pulled out. And, rugby league.
Just on the old stitch, I think Kevin Campion had about 1,000 stitches. Do you reckon you've topped him in tally of stitches at the club? How many has Mayhew put in?
Well, it was nearly a ritual after a game. We'd go and, win or loss, we'd have a discussion, and then I'd go and get a line read out of the esky and lie down on the table, and Doc would throw some anaesthetic in me and start stitching me up. So
the games that stand out for you, or even just moments on or off the field in that 7 years?
Obviously that run into the 2011 grand final was pretty special. I think we got pretty well beaten that first semi-final. I went home, so that was, I think, a Friday night game. Went home Saturday. On Tuesday night, my first son was born.
Wow.
So, up at Auckland Hospital. Missed training Tuesday, Wednesday. We then, I think, we played the Tigers the next Friday night, and so jumped on a plane on the Thursday and went back to Sydney, and so won that. Then the week after went to Melbourne, we won that, and then the first game of footy my son ever went to was an NRL grand final. So
wow.
I can't remember, it was 2008 maybe. We'd lost, I don't know how many, maybe 6 in a row, and it was a Sunday afternoon game. We played at Mount Smart, and it was against Melbourne, and Melbourne were rock stars in that year. Coming into a game where they'd probably won 10 in a row, and we played them on a Sunday afternoon. It was wet and cold and miserable. They probably only been 4,000 or 5,000 at Mount Smart, and I think we beat them 6-4 or 8-6 or a scoreline like that. And I just remember after that game being so proud of how the group had dug in and fought our way out of it. And I think after that we went on a run that we fell one game short in 2008 of playing in the grand final. So they're the memories I'm most proud of, about overcoming adversity and proving people wrong. And the group of people that you get to do that with is what makes it so special.
Well, you've given the fan of the club great experiences, so no doubt you want to say a few words to them because you've always been that grateful type.
Yeah, it's what made it so special. Is that I talked before about that game where there was only 4,000 or 5,000 people at Mount Smarden on a cold, wet Sunday afternoon, and that was. That's where I felt most comfortable for that period of my life, when I wake up on a Sunday morning and it was 7 or 8 degrees and raining, and I look out the window and just rub my hands together and say, this is our weather. And the people that would come and fill the stands on days like that were the people that made it so special. For me to have sat here maybe 20 years ago and say this is how your career on the field's going to map out, I would never have believed you. The relationships you build and the experience you have with people over there. So, amazing time of life, and always look at it very fondly, Monty.
Well, lucky, once a warrior, always a warrior. Thank you very much for being one of the heroes of the club, and also your time here today, for having a chat, man.
No, appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. I love the opportunity.
Michael Luck with the right side play. Maloney will score.
Well, there's a solid shot from Michael Luck. Here's Luck into space, Maloney.
Here it's Michael Luck, and it's building nicely for the home side. Luck motoring towards the goal line.
Ball to Luck. Michael Luck will